What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you are here. Today we're going to do something a little bit differently, okay? Today I'm going to be talking about things that I would tell you as your nonprofit controller if I wasn't afraid to hurt your feelings. So if you want to come and see what I got to say about that, keep watching. Now let's have an honest conversation. Oftentimes there are odd things that happen when you're running a nonprofit organization, right? You have a lot of hands in things, and naturally it's because you are trying to do a lot with a little. Totally understandable. And this video, I want to give a disclaimer, is not meant to be harsh, but these are some things that if I was just being blunt and sharing with you some of the icks or the pain points I have when working in this, in this industry for a number of years now, and having worked with, maybe over 50 nonprofits at this point, I want to get it off my chest. Okay? I'm doing it with love, but if you run a nonprofit organization or you work at one, this video is going to help you, so stick around. First things first, you cannot expect clean financials if you never review them or give feedback. I really don't understand the notion of not looking at your numbers. What is that? What is that? And then you have a fire drill when there's a grant report due or there's a grant application you want to submit. We put so much time and effort into truly making sure that our clients' financials are rock solid, only sometimes to have some people, maybe never open up the email or, never acknowledge the reports or ask questions, provide feedback, but then they need it for something that they're rushing for, and then there's a ton of questions. And don't get me wrong, I welcome questions. I actually prefer them because it lets me know that you're looking, you're digging in. Because to be honest, we don't know everything, right? We do our very, very best. We stay compliant. We stay up on new regulations and what's happening. However, you know your organization best. You cannot expect clean financials if you are not reviewing them, asking questions, and providing feedback. I've noticed that anytime I have a client that is super silent throughout the year, it is going to be chaos at the end of the year, or at some point. And I've yet to been proven wrong, really. Those that kind of just go ghost, don't really answer, and what we've come to terms with is like, that's not our ideal client, right? So we have had to end engagements because we just weren't getting anything. Review your reports. Know your numbers. If something is confusing, you don't understand it, ask the question. Got it? So number 2, no. We cannot just record something because you said it happened. There are so many times where I might get an email like, hey, we have this legal thing, or hey, these funds are going to be coming in. And again, we welcome these emails and these notifications, but backup is paramount in this space. We need backup at all times because it allows for us to, one, make sure we have sufficient evidence to back up whatever it is that we're doing, but also CYA covers your bottom. You know what the A stand for, but on here, cover your CYB, cover your bottom. Okay? So no, we can't just record it, right? Accounting is not based on memory, right? Like, it is based on actual facts, right? Where's the invoice? Where's the contract? Right? What does it say? We can't just guess. Too many times we've gotten ourselves in a pickle with auditors because the client told us this grant was conditional and we went with that, or unconditional, but it wasn't. So no, we have to have the actual grant reports. We have to read it and know it for ourselves, okay? And so no, we cannot just record something because you say it. So if you do have something coming down the pike that you want your accountant to know, to record, send it to them, but also send the backup with it, right? So at that point, they have everything they need to make an informed decision on how it should be recorded, and then you're good, okay? All right, number 3. This one is a personal pet peeve. Well, they're all pet peeves, to be honest, but this one really gets me. Editing transactions after month-end close without discussing it with us is financial sabotage. You can't tell me otherwise. You are sabotaging your financials. You can't tell me otherwise. If your accounting team, your fiscal team has closed the books and someone goes into the accounting system and makes a change, modifies something, that creates inaccurate financial statements. Not to mention, it truly disrupts how things flow, and it affects internal controls. It shows that we don't have any. It lacks them, right? Permissions is important, but we know that the company maintains access. So if something has changed, something needs to be modified, we always recommend first coming to us, because sometimes you might think something is a 911 or it has to be handled one way, and then you tell us and we're like, no, that's not accurate. It actually is supposed to be handled in the next period. That's the period we have now, not the prior one. Or if they were supposed to pay you X amount of dollars, but they only paid you Y, we don't go in and edit the invoice. We have to do something with that difference. We can't just pretend it wasn't there. And not to mention, all of this affects the audit trail, right? Reports have to tie out. They have to make sense. And so if something does need to change, there needs to be a process with which that is done, right? You can't just edit things and then just keep going. That doesn't work, right? So especially if you have an accounting team, right? You shouldn't be touching it. They should be, right? You provide oversight, but they should be doing the execution, right? We want to make sure that we are maintaining segregation of duties and proper internal control. So you cannot just go in all willy-nilly making changes, okay? The next one is quite often something we see, usually tied to EDs that honestly are just busy. However, your accounting team should not have to chase you for the same documents every month. It really is frustrating. We need, for the most part, right, the same things every month. We might have questions every month. You have to carve out time to be available, to be present. It is not enough to just say, you know what, we'll get to it when we get to it. We want to keep your financials accurate 24/7, but especially when we're closing the books. Now, we do use a software that allows us to send recurring requests. And so for the clients with which we don't have access to certain tools or systems, and we need to request a certain statement, those requests go out on a recurring basis and automatically. That's the word I was looking for. Automatically, right? And so the system sends reminders, however, something to note is that when documents arrive late, that means month end is going to be late. That means financials are going to be late. When information is incomplete, that means your financials are going to be incomplete. Your accounting team cannot care more about your financial success than you do. The same way we know, like the 1st through the 5th is when we do the majority of our gathering documentation, right? Maybe you schedule your time, during that time too, or maybe it's a day, maybe it's half a day, because honestly, some of these things don't take that long, right? But put it on your calendar that once a month, on the 3rd of the month, because that's typically when all your statements are available. That's when you pull down what you need and provide it to your accountant. But we cannot, if we don't have the documentation we need, we can't close your books. And if we can't close your books, then you're walking around with incomplete financials, right? And then you're not ready. If an audit comes up, if a grant application pops up and it's something that, is, completely in line with your organization and what you do, but then you can't take advantage of these things because you're not ready, right? And then your emergency becomes ours, and that's not fair. So let's all be courteous and kind to one another and have a process that supports the success or the financial success of the organization. Number 5, your budget is a non-negotiable document. It's not a once-in-a-year document. It's not something you're supposed to set and forget, but it's also non-negotiable. We've seen it where some organizations just don't have one. They're operating without it, and it makes it very difficult to actually have something to compare to. Are we trending well? Is this in line with where the organization wanted to go? How would you know if you don't have a budget? You should have a process where the budget is built, it is presented to the board, it is approved, and then we use it, right? We're running budget to actuals. We're seeing where we're off or where we're trending in a positive light, where there might be, a surplus down the line, or it might be a shortage. And now we have to figure out how we're gonna plug those funds. But if you don't have the document, it's going to be very difficult to even make that assessment. The budget also helps you to answer certain questions, right? Can you hire? Can you launch, this program that you were thinking about? Can you afford, set expenses that are coming down the pipeline? Are we on track to meet our revenue goals? If that's not documented somewhere, how would you know? And so let's make sure that when you're thinking about year end and you're planning for the next year, that creating a budget, a living, breathing document, is something that's a part of that process, okay? The best organizations, the ones that work well, they have a budget that they stick to, that they follow, that they look at, review, compare to their actuals, and make decisions based on. You should be in that number. All right, so we're moving on to number 6. Delayed responses equal delayed financials. We have a hard deadline of sending out financials by the 15th of the month, but we have some clients who either receive financials that have a number of things still open, or they don't receive financials because there's too many things open and we haven't received answers or responses to those things by our, required due date. The two cannot coexist, right? Your accounting team can only work with what they have. So if you're sitting on information, if you're not responsive, if you're not sharing updates and details, how can we update the financials? Fast responses, fast financials. Delayed responses, delayed financials. I understand that executive directors, you're busy. So if you can, right, you want to enlist someone in your organization to act as your number 2, your assistant, your backup, whatever, that can support you as it relates to the things that we may be requesting or need. Or you yourself, if you're the only one who can do it, that's problematic. But if you are, let's say maybe you're a smaller organization and it is just you have to carve the time out. And it might just be 30 minutes, but you have to carve the time out and be responsive and provide your accountants with the things that they need so that you can then get what you need from them. Number 7, you cannot scale a nonprofit on messy processes and financial guesswork. The system that got you to the $500,000, it's not going to get you to that 5 million. It might not even get you to the 1.5, right? Growth requires strong processes, better documentation, clear approvals, consistent reporting, internal controls, segregation of duties. Like, there's a lot that goes into scaling an organization, and we work with you to get that done, right? But you don't typically outgrow your financial problems if you don't take any kind of initiative to solve them. You just keep getting bigger, and then the problems get bigger with you. And we don't want that to happen. Getting bigger without adjusting or even looking and assessing what's going on, what's wrong, what needs to change, only magnifies. The bigger you become, the more expensive this organization gets. And so you start small, you start when you're not huge, right? So that is embedded in the fabric of the organization, that this is just how you run. And I'll be honest, clear disclaimer here. I run an accounting firm. I have been running this accounting firm since 2015. A lot of what we did in the beginning would be breaking us now had we not changed course. And not to mention, every so often we have to change course because we're growing. Things are changing. The climate is different, right? And so we have to consider these different factors in how we run and operate, and you have to do the same. And so make sure these are things that you are considering when you're making the plans, when you're thinking about the growth, right? When you're thinking about the new initiatives. You have to make sure that you are organized, right? Operational excellence needs to be a core part of what you do. All right, this is the final one. Unfortunately, we are not magicians. I know it seems like we are, but we're not. Accountants sometimes seem like miracle workers, but we cannot create information that doesn't exist. We can't create reports from information that doesn't exist. If data is missing or incomplete, then so will your financials. Like, be missing that data, and they'll be incomplete. Unfortunately, I have had some sad cases of organizations coming to me and really needing certain reports in detail, and because of the lack of information they've been able to provide me, I can't even do what it is that they need or what it is the funder is looking for, because it just doesn't exist. And that's why it's important when you start taking funds and you're supposed to be managing them in a certain way. If you are truly confused, you're unsure, you need support. And if you can't afford to hire, there are a lot of options now, right? Even us, we have enough clients who can't, there are enough people, that come to us and maybe they can't afford our retainer services, but then what do? They're doing our membership. Our membership is $99 a month. And so if you have a question, you can pop in, you can ask the question. If it's one of those weeks where we're having a masterclass, you can come on live and ask your question, and we can dissect and dive into your specific problem. However, you can't just say, I didn't know. The auditors don't care. Your funders don't care. When you sign that grant agreement, there's an expectation that you know what you're doing and how you're managing those funds. And so you need to be very mindful and very careful when you start to actually take on these funds and you're supposed to be doing things with it and you're not, or you're not sure how to manage it and make sure that the reports, actually show that, yes, we did this thing. Yes, we spent this money here. Here's the backup for that, right? You have to make sure that you are clear and that you have a process for doing these things. And if you yourself can't do it, if there's someone internal that can't do it, then you need to hire. And if you can't hire, you need to be looking for alternatives. So I was gonna stop at 8, but I have a bonus one that I want to touch on really quickly. Audit readiness is not something that you want to start 30 days before your audit is kicking off. We have a saying that it's like, we keep you audit ready all year. It is a big deal for us to make sure that our clients are ready at the drop of a hat, because also it's not just annual independent audits that you have to consider. It's when your funder drops in and they have questions and they want to know how you've spent their funds, right? And sometimes that stuff is ad hoc. You don't even know they're gonna come in. You have to be preparing all year round, or it becomes a mad dash, and it's not helpful to you, but it's also not helpful to the people that assist you, right? And so part of being a leader is making sure that you are assessing what's coming down and being prepared and proactive, right, ahead of time, so that it is not a stressful and crazy and chaotic time when things like that do kick off, right? So don't forget that, but that's just a bonus. I did want to mention that. Now, if any of these points made you uncomfortable, don't worry. You're not alone. That's one thing I always tell when I have discovery calls. I'm like, there's nothing I haven't seen or heard at this point, at least. A lot of the issues are the same. A lot of the pain points and the hiccups are the same. And so a lot of these financial challenges, I know they're not caused by a lack of passion or a lack of being interested in the work that you're doing. A lot of times they're caused by inconsistent processes, delayed, financial management. And while that can be detrimental to your organization, you have the ability to change it. That's the good news. The good news is that you can do something about it. Every single problem that I mentioned in this video is fixable. And some of it is fixable literally right now. You can literally decide that when you cut this video off, you can start doing the right thing. The organizations that thrive financially, they aren't necessarily the smartest, remember that, but they're disciplined. They have a process that they follow. They have structure. Some of the things that we can actually learn or steal from corporate that actually do have a place here in the nonprofit space. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it didn't hurt your feelings too much, but I hope that it pricked your heart and let you know some of the things that you need to be considering changing or fixing and getting better at. And so I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions or if you have any video topics you want me to talk about, drop them in the comments. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.